Welcome to my workshop. You are watching Casual DIY channel, and in today's video, China tools from Banggood. I've got this really cool jig, a drill guide jig. We're gonna have a look what features it has, is it any good, and if it's worth your money. Let's check it out. So why would you need a jig of this type in the first place? Well, I think most of us came across the situation where you are trying to drill a nice and straight hole, but it's just not happening. And there could be multiple reasons for that. And this jig is here to help you out drill straight holes. Now, I actually do have a very large and very decent pillar drill, but still there are occasions where I do need to hand drill those holes, and I do need them to be very accurate. For example, in larger pieces of furniture, or just in larger pieces of timber or sheet materials, and obviously in that case a pillar drill is not gonna do the job. Hence, a jig of this type could be proven to be very helpful, but we'll test that out in just a few moments. It does actually have a few cool features as well to help you out with the jobs around the workshop. So let's have a closer look at the build of the machine. Now, out of the box, I have to say it seems to be quite decent. The build quality, the materials, it's all fairly heavy, which is always a good indication that it's not all plastic fantastic. But yeah, it seems to be quite decent. Now, out of the bat, guys, I have to say this is a pure rip-off of another brand that made more or less the same tool. And I'm just going to give you a hint to what company that is. It also has got this color of aluminium on their tools. However, the price tag on their tools is mind-blowing, but the quality of their products is really great. Let's have a look if a cheaper option is actually up to the task. Okay, let's start with the basics. So you've got two metal rods, a spring, and basically this block with a chuck rides along those two pillars, making sure you are making a straight plunge into your material. Now, as you can see just over here, that end will fit more or less all drills or even impact drivers as well. Basically, you are putting a chuck of your drill on that end, and there's a bearing in there, and it just transfers the power from your drill to the chuck itself. And as I said, I've got an impact driver, and it will fit as well with no issues at all. Nowadays, we are used to keyless chucks on our drills, pillar drills. However, in this case, you do need a key that obviously comes with the whole package to lock the chuck. So you put your drill bit in, use the key to lock it. Obviously, this is a bit more time consuming, but you do get a nice and strong connection here, and you know, that drill bit is going nowhere. So as you can see, on one side you do have the spring that helps you to rise and operate the whole drilling process. On the other side, however, you do get this collar. That is your depth stop, okay? Now, this rod has got a flat spot, as you can see. Basically, what that will do is to enable the stop collar, the stop here, to remain in that stable position, and even if you're gonna hit it multiple times, it's actually not gonna move on you, and it will remain in that spot. So that's a very cool feature that we know comes in super handy when you are drilling, to make sure you will stop at the correct depth. I do like the large base that enables you to hold it in place with your hands. However, you can actually clamp it down as well with ease. Now, in the base itself, you do have some marks on each side, okay? So basically, you can mark up your work with a cross to find the dead-on center for your drill bit to go onto, as we do have over here. So I marked my piece of work with the cross where I want the hole to go, just over here in the middle, and I'm going to line up the marks with my lines. And then my drill bit will go bob on in the center. Now the distance from the end of the chuck, just over here, to the bottom of the base, that's 15 centimeters. So that's the travel distance you can expect from this jig. Now the opening in the base is about 28 millimeters. So that's the largest size bit you're going to be able to put through in this position of the jig. However, you can actually take the top off, just undo the holding nuts at the top like I'm doing right now, and that plate with the chuck itself, basically take it out and put it on the other side, and that's it. That will give you ability to put in larger bits, for example 4 snippets in this case. This one is 35 millimeter in diameter, and as you can see, you can pre-drill and use this jig, no issues at all. It actually gives you a bit more stability, as well as you can hold the base and use it with no issues at all. Now the distance from the tip of my bit to the edge is 32 millimeters. So I would say safely you can use a bit that's 60 millimeters in diameter. The next thing I want to show you is the base again. This time, as you can see in the middle, it does have this V groove going across it, and that's perfect for a dowel or anything round that you want to pre-drill a hole in. It's going to hold it tight in there with no issues at all. On top of it, the whole set comes with these 2 metal little rods, if you want to call them like that. So basically you can put them in these 2 holes, and that just gives you a bit more safety. If the dowel somehow catches on the drill bit and decides to spin on it, it's not going to do that. These 2 will stop the dowel from potentially spinning around. So let's make a hole in that. And as you've seen, no problems at all pre-drilling a dowel with this jig. Now these 2 pegs do have another purpose, which I'm going to show you right now. You can actually install them from underneath in the base, just like so. And now if you've got some stock where you want to pre-drill the holes right in the middle of the board, what you do, you put the pegs in between and twist it, and now you're going to be dead on in the middle of the board. So basically it does have a self-centering option as well. And simple as that, you've got a hole in the middle of your board. Right, the next thing I want to show you is the fence system. Basically this is your fence, and you can install this in any way you want. You've got holes from the top, holes through the back, and with 8 of these extension rods you can actually pre-drill more or less a middle of a board with no hassle at all, still having reference of your fence. So let's install these. They basically screw in into the base. They do have flat ends just over here, so you can use a key to make sure they are locked in place and they're going to move on you. And now the fence itself, obviously it goes onto the rods, and you can lock it in place with these brass screws that are at the end of the fence, and that's not going to go anywhere. In this position, as you are putting the main base on your piece of work, it does have a small lip at the edge here, and it will butt against your workpiece just like so. So you got a nice stable reference point from this fence. Now for example, if you want to make a hole very close to the edge of your board, what you can do, put the fence just like so, that plate facing the jig itself, and it will go underneath the jig, okay? And now you are much closer to the edge of your board, and obviously you can lock this in that place, and you can have repetitive holes along your workpiece. But that's not all. You can actually use this plate as an extra way of stabilizing the whole jig as you are drilling. So the plate needs to be facing up. Now the bottom of that plate is flush with the jig itself. You can place your arm onto that plate and that gives you extra stability as you are pre-drilling the holes. And on top of that, you can use the fence system and those rods at any side of the jig. Plus, as I mentioned, you do get additional pieces and you can have a far larger extension. If, for example, you want to pre-drill some holes in the middle of your board or anything like that, it just gives you much greater scope and much greater flexibility. However, the whole set also comes with these stops that you can install on the rods themselves. Just slide it in, lock it at designated distance, move it down, and there you go. That's your positive stop on the rod. Obviously, you can set it up in any way, shape or form, and you've got two of them. So I think these will really help you to dial in any setups you may have. However, there's more. You can use the fence in this position, just like so. Lock it in place. And now, for example, if I wanted to make some holes in my workbench or something that's vertically positioned, check this out. I've got a nice and secure lip on the workpiece itself. I can put pressure on that and accurately and easily pre-drill my holes in any piece like that. That is very, very cool and very, very handy. Right, so it does have really nice features, but how accurate is it? Is there any play in the whole thing? Well, the chuck itself is absolutely fine. There's no issues at all. The bearing itself, there is no side-to-side movement. If I put pressure on it, it just stays solid. No problems at all. Now, the plates on these two rods, I would say there's probably a tiny movement, about 0.5 mil, but not much than that. So in theory, it should give you really good results with no issues at all. Now, will this jig be as accurate as a really nice pillar drill? Probably not, and that's down to the human error. On a pillar drill, you clamp your workpiece in place and just pull a lever down and the drill drills. Whereas over here, you know, you need to hold this jig in place or clamp it down, so that will reduce the risk of potential error, while you're still holding the fairly heavy drill in the air, making the hole. Will it be better than freehand? Without shadow of a doubt. It will still give you very good performance, and if you used correctly, it won't be far off from a pillar drill. And for the applications that you're going to be using this, I think you will be quite happy with its performance. Now, for me, this is not a replacement of my pillar drill. It just fills the gap where I cannot use my pillar drill. This is absolutely perfect for quite a few applications and will give me really good results that I am after. However, I would say if you do have a small workshop or you just can't afford a decent pillar drill, this is a perfect choice for you. As it stands right now, and the time I had with this jig, I can honestly recommend you this jig. It is really good, and I think it will come in very handy in your workshop. Now, if you are interested in this jig, I do have links for this down below in the description of this video, so go ahead, check it out. But for me, it's a definitely good purchase. Now, that's all the things I wanted to share with you with regards to this jig. However, if you do have any questions about this, you know where the comment section is. Now, on top of that, I do have some really cool playlists over here, guys. One of them is with tools I've got in my workshop, so you can have a look what I've got. Am I happy with those tools or not? So yeah, hopefully I'll see you on one of those videos there. Take care.